All right, so welcome to another episode today, right here at our Jorge Ambris podcast. And today we have a very, very special guest here today with us. And what he's going to be doing is he's going to be providing us with some vital, important information regarding immigration. And so, we want everyone to listen up, want everyone to tune in. If maybe you're in the process of getting your papers fixed, if you're in the process of becoming a U.S. citizen, a U.S. resident, if your parents are in the process, a lot of times I know that there's a lot of young men, young women that are watching this podcast, that are listening to this podcast, that maybe your parents are in the process of getting their papers fixed, or maybe you're in the process of saving up money to get them started on that process. Well, then this episode is definitely for you. And so we hope that today we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions. No fluff. We're not about the trending things or anything like that. We're all about trying to provide you guys real authentic conversations and with real facts, and to guide you and to lead you into the right direction. And so today, with us today, I want to introduce counselor, attorney, Arthur Evangelista. Welcome.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
I feel fine.
That's good. That's good.
I feel great.
That's good. So tell us a little bit about you, about yourself. Where's your business located? How long have you been in business?
My business is located in San Bernardino. I've been in business. I graduated the bar, or I passed the bar in 80 or 92.
Okay.
And then I moved to the area in 97. I've been practicing here in the area since then, since 97.
All right. And then when you say in the area right here in the Inland Empire, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
San Bernardino.
San Bernardino and all the surrounding cities. So, all right. And so, yeah, so we have a few questions that we came up with, things that, I personally saw growing up. As I mentioned the first time I met you, I'm a son of immigrant parents that came to the United States, for a better life. And, throughout my process, throughout my life, I was able to see a lot of my aunts and uncles, go through the immigration process, go through the attorneys, get their papers fixed, thankfully. And so a lot of these questions are questions that I know people are asking, and so hopefully we can get them answered. You ready?
Yes.
All right. So the first thing is, can you explain what the permanent bar is, how it came from the 1997 immigration law?
Okay. The permanent bar, in 1997, they passed a law. And the law, it's one of the most intensive immigration laws that has been passed, and there hasn't been one passed as significant as that law since 1997. And that law says that if you're in the United States illegally for more than a year and you leave the United States, you can't come back for 10 years. Now, there's a waiver for that 10-year bar if you are the spouse, or if you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent, and then you can file a waiver if you can prove that that spouse or parent will suffer what's called extreme hardship. Okay, but
Gotcha.
Also that law included another provision where if you're here illegally for more than a year, and then you leave, and then you come back illegally, then you can't apply for the waiver anymore. It's what's called a permanent bar, which basically it's not really a permanent bar, but you can't apply for anything with immigration, with a few exceptions, unless you leave the United States for 10 years.
Gotcha. So that's pretty intense. So prior to that, 1996, 1997, it was that wasn't really in effect at that time.
No. And then that law also, it used to be before 97, you only could be deported by a judge. But that law gave the power to the Border Patrol to actually officially deport people.
Gotcha.
So around 1997, when it first passed, for 97, 98, and part of 1999,
yeah.
If you got caught at the border, then they automatically deported you for the
Gotcha.
most part.
So even if they didn't sign anything.
Even if they didn't sign anything.
Gotcha. Because that makes a lot of sense now, because I've known a lot of situations, and I've come across a lot of people that they were like, and it must have been during this time after the 96, 97, because they would say things like, man, you know what? They took us and they gave us a choice. They're like, leave the country. But then when they tried to fix their papers, something came up in the system that they were deported.
Yes. I mean, the thing is that it all depends on the officer that caught them.
Yeah.
The officer could choose to actually officially deport them, or they could have just let them go voluntarily.
Yeah.
So just because you got caught by immigration coming in at the border doesn't necessarily mean that you were deported.
Right.
Now, another part of that 1997 law made it so that if you illegally re-enter the United States after having been deported, you're subject to the permanent bar.
Gotcha.
So it's really, really important, one, to know whether or not you were officially deported or not.
Yeah. And is there a way they can find out before?
Yeah, I can, or you can run your fingerprints through the system.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to make sure that you actually do it through the immigration system.
Okay.
In order to find out, just running a regular FOIA
Right.
is not going to get it done. You actually have to submit your fingerprints so they can run your fingerprints to see whether or not there's a deportation that shows up on your record.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. That's good information to know. And is there, because I know, and is there any risks in doing that?
No, because the department that you run your fingerprints through, well, one is the FBI, but if you run it through immigration, that's a different department than enforcement.
Gotcha.
So they're not looking to find people that are running their prints.
Yeah.
To deport.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
It's just basically a department that distributes information.
Gotcha.
Plus, it's a fingerprint card, and the person that runs the prints doesn't know whether or not you got your fingerprint taken here or taken outside the United States.
Gotcha.
So it's not really a source of something that immigration can look at to try and find people.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh, I'm here, so and so is here.
Yes.
They're sending the information from here.
They're not looking at that.
Yeah.
All they're looking at is just distributing information.
Gotcha. And if, let's say, because you mentioned that's something that they can do on their own, but if, let's say, the process is maybe too complicated for them, are they able to go to your office and do that?
Yes, they can do that, and then we'll run your prints.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. So there you have it. If that's a good way, that's some good information there for people to know. If, before getting the process started, you have no risk in really running your fingerprints through the system and finding out if there are any deportations. Because I know of a situation that happened where a gentleman that we know, he went to Juarez, for the interview, and he was under the impression that he never had a deportation because he had voluntarily left. But like you said, it depends on the officer. And so his deportation was registered. So when he went to the interview in Juarez, guess what came up?
The deportation.
The deportation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's essential for people to be prepared before they answer any questions at an interview, or for whatever reason, if they have an interview or an appointment to go see anything related to immigration. Mm-hmm. It's really important to get somebody, an attorney preferably,
Right.
to talk to make sure that you don't say the wrong things.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is for you to say the wrong thing. Even if you say the wrong thing and you were wrong about saying the wrong thing, it wasn't really that.
Yeah.
It's already flagged on your file.
Yeah.
And so there's no walking it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the officer or the officer after that or the officer after that doesn't know you from the next guy.
Yeah.
And in their mind, everybody lies.
Right. Like that's pretty much what they're there to do, to catch the liars.
So you can't say the wrong thing. It's best if you don't say the wrong thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good information to know, and I hope whoever is listening or whoever watches this clip can really understand that, because I think a lot of times, and we'll get to a question that comes to that, but a lot of times to want to save money, to want to save time, mostly to want to save money, right? We want to go to a notary public, we want to go to a paralegal or someone who helps somebody fill out the papers, but we don't ever think things through. Like in that situation of this gentleman, too late for coulda, shoulda, woulda, but if he would have sat down with an attorney that could have explained those things or even ran their fingerprints ahead of time, that situation probably could have been avoided for them.
Yeah, I've had just countless clients or potential clients or people that come to me for consultations that they should have, if they just got somebody, if they just talked to me before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it would have avoided so much heartache, so much money wasted. It's not just, if you go to a notary or if you go to a paralegal, there's some attorneys that, either they don't know what they're doing or they, they don't really care.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But there's times that there's people that come in and say, I had an attorney, and I told the attorney everything, and the attorney still filed it, and it resulted in, now they're in deportation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you have to make sure that, one, you go to an attorney, and two, that you shouldn't go somewhere unless someone refers you.
Yeah.
Someone that can say that, hey, I went to this guy and he does a great job. He fixed my papers. Yeah. Don't just go to any attorney.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was one of the things that I saw a lot within my family alone. They pretty much always used at that time, in the 90s, early 2000s, they would pretty much have the same lawyer, for the family, and they would all, pitch in and, I never heard of them going through a notary public, or going through a paralegal. It was always through an attorney, because it was, there was somebody that they were referred to, somebody that had a track record. And so it's good to know, especially how long you've been in practice for, and just the simple fact that you're here and answering straightforward questions. It just shows, right, the integrity and the interest of truly wanting to, help people, not just give them information just for the sake of winning a client, but, saying, hey, these are the steps that you should be taking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I first started practicing in immigration, I saw the heartache of people. And I said to myself that I don't want to be the guy that just takes a case on just to get paid. I won't take a case. I don't lie to people.
Yeah.
Because it's the easiest thing to sell is hope. Because it sells itself.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody that, especially immigrants, they're looking for hope.
Right.
And it's really, really easy to sell hope. And I think that the people that sell false hope, those are the worst people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not just tearing somebody down, but it's building them up and then tearing them down.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. And I agree with that. And I mean, and we've seen that so many times. And that's why, when I was referred to you and even when in that initial interview that we were able to have there at your office, I could tell, I could see it, you were straightforward, you weren't about the fluff, you weren't about, and that's what I wanted, because right now right now we live in a world of trending topics, and as soon as something becomes trendy, everyone wants to jump on ship and, like you said, sell hope, and then there's people that want to, really capitalize on that and sell that hope to people, or sell fear to them or sell hope to them. And, sad to say, but, I speak for, for a lot of, my people, right? A lot of times it's because of ignorance, because we're not educated to try to find the answers that we need in order to be able to start the process, or we listen to the wrong people. And, so it's good to hear that, there's an attorney here in the Inland Empire, in San Bernardino, in the surrounding areas is going to look at your case and is going to just tell you straightforward.
Yeah.
So my next question is, this is a real popular question. I'm sure you guys get this a lot. If someone's children were born here in the U.S., does that automatically help them fix papers?
No, that doesn't. I mean, a U.S. citizen child, as soon as they turn 21, can file for their parents. The only problem is that that's only the first part. The second part is applying for your green card. So if you have a U.S. citizen child that's 21, then they can fix for the mother and the father.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's only the first step. The second part is filing for their green card. And now there's two ways to file for their green card. The first way is if they qualify, they can file here in the United States. The only way to qualify to file here in the United States is if they entered the country legally, which for most people, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
The second way is if someone filed a petition for them before April 30, 2001. That's what's called 245I.
Okay.
There was a provision in the law, INA section 245I, which allows someone that entered the country illegally to adjust their status in the United States if they have a petition that was filed for them before April 30, 2001.
Okay.
Now, when they first passed that law, it was passed in 1997. And so it was extended only through 97. Then President Clinton passed a law in December of 2000.
Okay.
Extending 245I to petitions that were filed on or before April 30, 2001.
Gotcha. Okay. And let me ask you something, because there's that petition, the 245I, right? That's what so that petition, the 245I, how would they know they have that on file?
Now, if a petition was filed for them or for their parents while they were under 21, then that would cover them. So you would have to see whether or not, you'd have to ask your parents or see whether or not someone filed a petition for you before April 30, 2001. Or if your parents or you had a labor certification application filed on or before April 30, 2001.
Gotcha. Okay. So it would just be something like, because they receive a letter, right?
Yeah, you get a receipt notice or an approval notice, and then you just have to see what the priority date on that petition is.
Gotcha.
If it's April 30, 2001 or before, then you're 245I.
Yeah. And is there any way that if those letters or receipts or anything were lost, is there any way to recover them through immigration?
Yes. For the labor certifications, they changed the law sometime in 2005. And when they changed the law in 2005, they destroyed all of the labor because you filed the labor certification with not with immigration, you filed that with the Department of Labor.
Okay.
So in 2005, they destroyed all of the files before 2005.
Oh, wow.
Because they totally changed the way to do it. So there's no way to find those. If you don't have those, or you had an attorney that filed it, there's no way to get those. But the petitions, you can file what's called the FOIA, which is a Freedom of Information Act request.
Okay.
You can file that with immigration to see whether or not they can find that petition.
Okay. Is that something that you guys offer at your office?
Yes.
Okay.
But the person that has to file the FOIA request is not you. It actually has to be the person that filed the petition.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you have it. If because I know that was one of the questions that was sent from Instagram to us, is so there you go. If there is no way of you having proof or copy of that receipt, but the petitioner, your parents or someone is still alive, still active in your life, go find them, pull them, and go visit right here the law offices of Evangelista right here, and they'll be able to help you guys find that.
And even if the petitioner died, if you're the child or the wife of the person that died, you can file the FOIA petition on behalf of the deceased individual.
Okay, that's good to know. There you have it, guys. All right, so there you have it. It just because your children are U.S. citizen, it doesn't automatically. So that's why it's important to get informed. Go and talk to an attorney so that way you can get the right information. And here's a message for all of you that are all the kids, all you young adults that are turning 21 years old or already 21 years old, man. This is just from me, heart to heart. Instead of purchasing that $8, $9, $1,000 car payment, that can wait. If your parents are still outside of the country or in this country illegally or whatever the case may be, and they still don't have their papers, but you're out there, man, squandering your money, you're out there trying to live a lavish lifestyle, and your parents, and you're one of the guys that is out there fussing about all these things that's happening right now, I'm talking to you. You know what I mean? Save your money and actually start building a fund so that you can start helping your parents figure this stuff out. Go visit an attorney. If you're here in San Bernardino or in the area, go visit counsel right here and find out what you can do. What is it that you can start doing to get your parents' papers fixed? All right. So just wanted to throw that in there.
So to complete the question that you were asking before, so that's the second way that you be eligible to file here in the United States. The third way to qualify to file in the United States is a program called Parole in Place. Now, they started this program, I don't know, in like 2015, 2016 or something like that, somewhere around there, where if you are the spouse, the parent, or if you have a spouse, parent, or child in the military or ever served in the military, then you can file for parole in place. And parole in place is basically a way that immigration is giving you a permit to qualify for adjustment for legal entry.
Gotcha.
So as you were talking to, the kids nowadays, if you really want to help your parents, join the military.
That's one way. Yeah.
Because it makes everything easier. They don't have to go back to their home country to get their green card or whatnot. Right. They don't have to leave. They can do everything here in the United States, and it's a pretty quick process.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's good information. Thank you. Yeah, you said 3 parts, and I was already interrupting you after the second. But hey, that's good information, because like you said, that's one way, we have to remember one thing. Our parents, a lot of our parents did the impossible to be able to be here. And now many of us were able to enjoy the fruits of their labor, the fruits of their sacrifice, so that is something to give thought to. If you really care about the immigration status of your parents and you really want to make a difference in their lives, that's definitely an option to look into. So, next question is, which you answered, which was about the military child. But now, this is a question that also came in through Instagram. Is it true that I can't fix my residency under the old amnesty or registration programs? For example, there is a mom who had applied for the amnesty back in 1986, but because she didn't have the money, the finances to finish the process, she was never able to fix.
Well, there was an amnesty, and then they had a late amnesty, but the deadline to have filed for your green card under those programs expired a long time ago.
Yeah.
So the way that amnesty worked is that you applied for the amnesty and you got temporary resident status.
Gotcha.
And so you got you got a temporary green card, and you got a work permit. You could apply for permission to travel, but you had to apply for permanent residence after that to get your permanent residency. And if you haven't applied yet, that program's gone. You can't even do anything about it.
Yeah.
But in some cases, they had a special program if you're for the field workers, for agricultural workers.
Okay.
And it kind of worked like amnesty did, where if you applied for that, if you sent something in saying that you worked in the fields for 90 days, and this was around the same time the amnesty was, you could apply for temporary resident status.
Okay.
Now, the amnesty program didn't grant automatic permission to travel. You actually had to apply separately for permission to travel. So if you applied for that permission to travel and you left and came back, then that's your legal entry. And if you have a child that's 21, then you can apply for adjustment of status.
Oh, wow.
But the temporary program for the field workers, for the agricultural workers, that automatically came with permission to travel. So
Gotcha.
if you got approved as a temporary status as an agricultural worker, then you don't even have to prove that you left and came back, because the permission to travel was automatic. So you can apply for your adjustment of status with legal entry, because you already have, as long as you have proof that you were granted temporary status.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's good. But you said that was around the same time.
That was around the same time as the amnesty.
The amnesty, the 1986. Yeah, that was through Ronald Reagan, right?
Yeah, that was through Reagan.
Yeah, that's how my mom and dad were able to get their temporary residence during that time. And then eventually, they got their permanent residence, and then eventually now, thankfully they got their citizenships now. But yeah, okay. So there you go. I know somebody had a question about that. So, and then so now the other is, what is the difference? What is the difference between a waiver and just waiting outside the country? So what is the difference? Is there such a thing as like because in Spanish they call it a perdón?
Yeah, the waiver. There's multiple things that you can have waived.
Okay.
Which goes back to finishing what we were talking about before. So those were the three ways that you can apply for adjustment of status. If you don't qualify to file here in the United States, then the only way to get your green card is you'd have to go back to your home country to get your green card. Now, like I said, in 97, they passed a law that says if you're in the United States illegally and you leave, you can't come back for 10 years. Yeah. But you can file for a waiver of that 10-year period.
Okay.
But only if you have a spouse or a parent that's a citizen or a resident. So children don't count for the waiver purposes.
Gotcha.
Children count for waivers for criminal records, but not waivers for for being here illegally and leaving.
Gotcha. So if they so in situations like, for example, let's say somebody is sent back to Juarez, right, to go get the interview done and everything, and let's say that, you know, that situation where, oh, you know what, we found out, you know, you entered illegally, you know, you're gonna have to stay here for 10 years. So they can still apply for a waiver to try to get those 10 years waived.
Only if they were here, left one time, never came back. Because
Right.
once you come back illegally, then that triggers the permanent bar.
So so if like that, so in a situation where, yeah, they were only here one time, they crossed over one time, they've only been here, they've lived a whole life here, and now they're sent back to Juarez for the interview, they have to stay now, they can apply for that waiver.
Yes, but they let me see how long ago. It might be 10 years ago.
Okay.
They changed the way that it was because it used to be that the waiver process, you can't apply for the waiver. It used to be that you couldn't apply for the waiver until you physically had your interview in your home country,
Right.
at the U.S. consulate in your home country.
Right.
So you had to leave first and then file the waiver.
Yeah.
And back then, in about, it was like 10 years ago, might be more, it would take only about 3 or 4 months. So you'd leave, file the waiver, in 3 or 4 months you'd come back.
Okay. Wow.
But the wait started to exceed 3 or 4 months. So immigration changed. They actually did something for immigrants. And there's a way that you can file that waiver before you leave.
Okay.
And that's called the provisional waiver.
Okay.
If you have a immigrant visa, if a parent, if you're the parent of a citizen or the sibling of a citizen, or the child of a resident or the child of a citizen, and you have your interview, or you're eligible to file for your interview to leave, then you can file a waiver before you leave. But only if you have a spouse or a parent that's a citizen or a resident, and only if you have nothing else on your record except being here illegally.
Okay.
That provisional waiver is really, really strict.
Yeah.
So you can't have anything else on your record.
Yeah.
And so if you file that waiver before you leave, then you're only going to have to be gone for a week.
Okay.
Because the waiver is already approved. So you go back, you do your fingerprints, you get your medical exam, you have your interview, then you wait for them to make your green card, and then you can come back, and it only takes a week or 2 weeks at the most.
With that provisional waiver.
With that provisional waiver.
Gotcha.
Now, for what I've seen they're only doing it in Mexico, is that if you have children that were born in Mexico and you go to your interview, for the most part, they will charge you with alien smuggling, unless you have a story where you took no part in your kids coming to the United States.
Oh, wow. That's the first time I hear this.
Yeah. So there's a provision in the law that you can't get your green card if you ever helped anyone enter the country illegally.
Right.
And that law encompasses anything, and it's so encompassing that in certain cases, the officer at your interview is going to just assume, if you have kids that were born there, that you helped them enter illegally.
And they can just say, okay, that's considered smuggling.
So, and they can say that's considered smuggling. Now, all hope isn't dead in that case. Mm-hmm. However, you're not going to come back in a week. You have to file the waiver all over again because, like I said, that provisional waiver is only if you have nothing else on your record.
Yeah.
So if you have alien smuggling on your record, then that totally cancels the provisional waiver.
Yeah.
And you have to file the waiver all over again.
Once you're over there in your country.
Now the waiver that you file for the provisional waiver is basically the same waiver that you file for alien smuggling as well.
Oh my God.
So if you got approved for the provisional waiver, you're probably going to get approved for the waiver for the alien smuggling plus being here illegally.
Yeah.
It's just that waiver takes about a year. So instead of being gone for a week, you're going to be gone for a year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I had never heard that. That's the very first time I heard that. Yeah, that's interesting.
And so, I tell clients that I actually had one client that I told that to, and for some reason I was the bad guy for telling them something that I just learned, because it didn't used to be that way. They never charged that.
Yeah.
It's only recently that they started doing that, within the past 3-4 years.
Wow.
And so I have all these cases that opened before they started doing that, and they're all like, well, why didn't you tell me that before? And I'm saying, I'm helping you out by telling you what the recent stuff is.
Right. Because, anything can change at any moment.
Yeah. And so, and I think it makes me different than other attorneys. I learn from my mistakes, and I pass that on to my clients to make sure that they don't leave and then they can't come back.
Yeah.
Or at least they know what they're into.
Right. Yeah, no. It makes sense. It makes sense. And so another question regarding kids too is, what about parents of special needs children? Do they qualify for any relief? And if so, but also, what are the risks?
Now, there is a program where you can file for your green card if you have a spouse, a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse, parent, or minor child that has special needs or that has life-threatening illness. But and you've lived in the United States for 10 years. It's what's called cancellation of removal.
Okay.
If you lived in the United States for 10 years and you have a special needs or a relative that has life-threatening illness, or in some cases, if you have minor children that are in like special classes, like, they're really, really smart or something, you can apply for your green card. But the only way that you can do that is that you'd have to put yourself in deportation, because you can only apply for that with a judge.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and I think personally, in my opinion, I think that it's malpractice for an attorney to advise somebody to put themselves in deportation, because it's an all or nothing. It's an all or nothing proposition.
Yeah. So you're pretty much putting yourself in the system.
Yeah. In the process of deportation. So the judge can say yes and you get your green card, or the judge can say no and you get deported.
And you're gone. Wow.
Yeah. So and what happened before is that attorneys and non-attorneys too advised people to put themselves in deportation. So for a while there was like a mass effort by attorneys and non-attorneys to get people in deportation. One is because that increases their client base. They they have more fees like that. But like I said, I think that it's malpractice unless you advise the client totally of what they're getting into.
Yeah. And they still make that choice.
Want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, only extreme cases are approved. And the wait list for that, because, it's becoming more and more known, this process is, more people are applying for it. And they only can give out, I think it's like 10,000 something around 10,000 visas every year
For that particular
for that
situation?
particular situation. So there's about a 6-year waiting list
Oh, wow.
to do that. And so, say you have a special needs child, once they turn 21, they're no longer a qualifying relative to get that visa.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to take about a year or maybe 2 years to get that final, to put yourself in deportation and to get your final hearing. Actually, it's 1 to 3, 4 years to get that final hearing date. And then once you get that final hearing date and the judge grants the application, there's still a 6-year wait after that to get the visa.
Oh, wow.
And if during that period, if you're only doing it through a child, and if during that, 6 to 10 year period, your child turns over 21, you can't get
That's
the visa
it.
anymore.
Even if the application was approved?
Even if it was approved, because the visa is not available. You actually have to get approved and the visa has to become available if you're doing it through a child before the child turns 21, or you can't get it.
Yeah, there you go. So like that's some good information there. So for those that were asking that or wondering about that, well, there you go. And I like that how he's putting it. You go, you sit down, you get all the information, you sit down at the consultation, and if at that point, once you have all the information as to how you want to move forward, well, then it's going to be up to you. But it's something good, or maybe you're in the process, or you've been thinking about that, or have been talking to an attorney somewhere, or a notary public, or someone about starting that process. Here's some good information for you to think about. So the next question here is, if someone has been caught at the border before, does that? Well, you kind of answered that already. But maybe you can, if you want to emphasize a little bit more. If they've been caught at the border before, does that automatically disqualify them?
No, like I said, you should have your fingerprints run. And for the most part, after 1999, if you got caught at the border, while it still could be an official deportation, for the most part, it's generally not, unless you try to come in by committing fraud. If you try to use somebody else's green card, or a false green card, or a false visa.
Yeah.
Only if you're committing fraud does it become an actual official deportation. That's when they decide that it's going to be a deportation and not just a voluntary return.
Yeah. So it can be like those situations where, like, hey, they're trying, you're attempting to come in. They're like, hey, just go back.
Yeah.
And you just, you turn away. So, yeah, because I think a lot of people have maybe gone through a situation like that and they're kind of iffy. But again, going back to your point earlier, run your fingerprints, right?
Yeah, especially now, with President Trump in office and the increased ICE presence everywhere.
Yeah.
If you're caught by ICE, immigration, or whatever, you want to, if you have a case started already, then you're 10 times better off than the person that doesn't have a case. Because first of all, you're showing them that you want to stay.
Yeah.
And second of all, you're showing them that you're actually doing something to stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's a choice between, having them say that you're going to be deported or just sent back voluntarily, they're going to be more apt to send you back voluntarily or give you the opportunity to do something if you're already showing them that you're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Now that process, that in 97, the law where the Border Patrol can actually physically deport you, that law was limited to if you're caught within 150 miles of a border. Okay. So if you're caught in the United States, not outside of 150 yards of a border, then you can't be deported by
a border patrol.
by border patrol or ICE.
It would still have to be by a judge.
Yeah, it would still have to be by a judge. However, President Trump just signed an executive order expanding that to if you're caught anywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But if you can show them that you've been living in the United States for at least 2 years, then they won't. It's called expedited removal. They won't deport you.
Okay.
So one is, and I know you didn't ask that, and it's probably one of your questions you were going to ask, is that if you're ever caught by ICE or immigration, right now, the one thing you cannot do is you cannot sign to leave voluntarily. The one and ISIS or whoever catches you, they're going to lie to you. They're going to say, we're going to keep you in jail for 10 years if you don't sign to leave voluntarily. Because if you sign to leave voluntarily, that's the quickest way they can get you out of the country.
Right.
So the one thing you cannot do is sign to leave voluntarily. No matter what they tell you, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
You have to tell them that you want to see a judge.
Okay.
And then, call an attorney and see what you can do after that.
Gotcha.
Okay? Now, when you get caught by immigration and you say you want to see a judge, they're going to give you some documents and they're going to make you sign something saying that you acknowledge that they're giving you these documents. Okay? Don't sign anything that you don't understand. However, you can't just go in there and say, I'm not signing anything. You have to explain to them, I don't want to sign that. I don't understand it.
Okay.
Because if you go in there and tell them, I'm not signing anything, then they label you as uncooperative. And uncooperative people stay detained.
Gotcha.
So be cooperative, but you can't sign to leave voluntarily.
Yeah. Those are good tips. Yeah. So there you have it. If anyone is in that situation or you're in fear of being in that situation, hopefully you never are. But if you ever are, remember what he's saying. So don't sign voluntary deportation. Don't sign it. And when you're going to go see the judge, just like he was saying, if there is something that you do not understand, just communicate that you don't understand exactly what you're signing. And at that point, do they bring someone in or do they wait? Like, can an attorney come and be present while reading those documents?
What'll happen is that if they have someone, if one of the officers speaks Spanish, then they'll explain it to you in Spanish, or maybe they won't. But don't sign anything you don't understand.
Yeah.
And even if they say they speak Spanish and they're telling you in Spanish what the document is saying, if you can't read it, don't sign it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they lie.
Yeah. Yeah, because because like you said, the easiest way for them to...
The quickest and easiest way for them to send you back is if you sign to leave voluntarily.
Yeah. And
even if you say to yourself, hey, why don't I just sign to leave voluntarily so I don't have to deal with anything, I'm going to probably be deported anyway. There's a chance that it's going to take over a week for them to send you back. And then you're going to stay in jail for a week after you sign to leave voluntarily.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to immediately send you back. So it's always better to see a judge.
Yeah. We have a situation like that. A friend of ours but this happened, I believe, last year. It was last year, and they were picked up by an immigration officer. They were taken in to one of the local offices, and that's exactly what they wanted. They were trying to get him to sign a voluntary deportation. And so, and he's a very calm, chill person. So he's just like, no, I don't want to sign anything that I don't understand, and, he's like, I need to call a lawyer. I need to call my son. And then, so I guess, I don't know in the conversations, but that's what they advised him, to see a lawyer. And so I guess now, because he was able to do that, they didn't take him out of the country. He's in the process of, I'm not sure exactly what the process is looking like, but they granted him like a temporary work permit, I believe.
Yeah, you can get a work permit sometimes in certain situations.
Yeah, and a temporary social. Yeah, right, Rodrigo? He got that? Yeah. Oh, it's okay. We'll edit it. But yeah, so he has a temporary work permit, and so, but he's still in the process, and he's waiting to see the judge.
Yeah, and you know how they have the head of the Department of Homeland Security running those commercials that say, "Hey, deport yourself."
Yeah.
And we'll pay, give you free transportation to back to your home country, and you'll have an opportunity to come back. And there's some of my relatives that are here illegally that believed it, what they were saying.
Yeah.
The only problem is that, like we were talking about, that they might have the opportunity to come back, but they're going to be subject to that 10-year bar.
And that's what they don't explain.
Yeah, and they don't explain that. And so if you don't have a spouse or a parent that's a citizen or a resident, you're not going to be able to come back for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because that's the law. And what she's saying is not the law. Well, she's hiding truths of that law.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, you never know, because if you leave and say, when there's a new administration, they change the law and you leave, then you're not going to be part of that new law.
Yeah.
Because you left.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't really know until you talk to an attorney. And like I said, you got to make sure you go to an attorney that you trust.
Yeah.
Someone that referred you. It's really, really important, because there's some attorneys that there's a lot of attorneys in California.
Yeah.
And that means there's a lot of bad attorneys in California. So you got to make sure you go to the right one.
Yeah.
And so talk to an attorney before you decide to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't just make the decision without all the facts.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't do it out of fear either.
Yeah, out of fear either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop watching Telemundo.
Yeah.
So another question, it kind of ties in, but this is more for local stuff, right? If they've ever had run-ins with the law here in the U.S., does that automatically stop them from fixing papers?
No, there's certain crimes. If you commit certain crimes, it might make you ineligible or inadmissible, that you can't get your green card. But sometimes there's waivers for that, and it just all depends on the crime.
Yeah.
Like anything drug related, that's pretty much a death wish. Or murder, or aggravated assault, something serious, or bodily harm, or anything involving a minor, and sexual abuse of a minor. Those are the items that you can't get around.
Yeah. So either way, like, that's still something. Talk to an attorney, right?
Yeah, because there still might be a way.
There still might be a way. Yeah, because there's, maybe a DUI, right? That they've had a run-in with a DUI, or maybe, they had some petty theft. Does time frame matter in those situations too? Like, say they were here in the country for 20, 25 years, and that happened maybe in year 3, year 4 when they were here.
It's like, every case is different.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to just make general statements, because then some people might be turned off by and not call an attorney.
Yeah.
You really got to talk to an attorney and explain your whole case.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you come talk to me and there's a way, I'll find it.
Right.
But if there's no way, wouldn't you rather know that there's no way rather than, living with false hope and then somebody tries to sell you something and you just waste your money?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there you have it. It's a case by case situation. So because that's one of the things that we're very good at, that what does, Aunt so-and-so, had a situation like that, or Uncle so-and-so had a situation.
Yes.
And we're very, it's because what happened to them. But I've always been that type of person. Like, no, like every context is different. So let's be informed based off what our context is, what our situation is. So, all right. And then the other question is here, why does someone need a sponsor when they're fixing their papers? And what happens if they don't make enough money? If the sponsor, the immediate sponsor, doesn't make enough money, can they get co-sponsors?
Okay. There's a law that, in order to get your green card, for most cases, there's some exceptions to this, but for most cases, there's a law that in order to get your green card, you have to show immigration that if you can't support yourself, somebody else will. And the reason why they have that is because they don't want people coming in here, getting their green card, and then jumping straight on welfare.
Right.
They want to make sure that if you're coming in, that you're going to be able to support yourself because, we have too much debt.
Right.
The government has too much debt. And so they don't want to add to that.
Right.
And so normally the person that's filing for you, the petitioner, is the sponsor.
Okay.
But if the sponsor doesn't make enough money, then somebody else can do that. And for most cases, it can be anybody as long as they're a citizen or a resident.
Gotcha.
And if they make enough money, then they can be your sponsor.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I imagine the income limits change year to year?
Yeah, it goes by poverty level.
Okay.
Somebody that makes over the poverty level
Okay.
can be a sponsor. So right now, I think it's about, 30, 20, 25, 20, somewhere between 25 and 30.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's that. It also depends on how many dependents you have. So somebody single, that's one, and the person you're sponsoring, so that would be two. And for two people, I think it's, like I said, it's about 25 or 30.
Okay.
And the more dependents the sponsor has, then the higher the income that you have to make to qualify to be a sponsor.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you have it. So if hope isn't lost, like if, say, the petitioner, someone you're trying to get, you're a parent or someone and you're trying to fix their papers, but for whatever reason you're worried that maybe you don't make enough money at the time quite yet, maybe you can always reach out, right, to, and you're saying it can be, well, of course, I mean, not anyone is going to agree, but it can be like a family member, a relative, a friend.
Yes, could be anybody.
Okay. All right. And then, so here's another question. When it comes to DACA, well, maybe you can explain what exactly is DACA and how can DACA recipients change their status to permanent resident?
Well, DACA is a program that was started by President Obama. And so if you came into the United States at a certain time, I don't remember the dates anymore, and you were under the age of 30 by a certain date, you got temporary status. And that included a work permit. And right now, President Trump is trying to end DACA. And so beginning with his first term, they stopped allowing people to apply for DACA. Right now, only if you have DACA can you apply to renew your DACA. but they're not granting any new DACA applicants.
Gotcha. And so, and then those DACA the ones that already have the DACA, how are they able to change their resident status?
Well, the only way that they can change their status is if someone files for them, a family member. Or they might be able to do it through work, but you'd have to talk to an attorney about that, because there's ways that you might be able to do it and there's ways that you might not.
Yeah.
If you marry a citizen, or you have a child that's 21, there's DACA. The provisions in DACA allow you to apply for travel.
Okay.
So you can apply for travel, but they only grant you permission to travel for 3 reasons. One is for work, one is for school, and the other one is for exigent circumstances like serious illness or death in the family.
Okay.
So if you apply for DACA, for the permission to travel, and you leave the United States and then come back, that's legal entry.
Yeah.
And so once you have legal entry and you're the parent of a citizen, then you can apply for adjustment of status.
Gotcha.
Or if you're the spouse of a citizen, you can apply for adjustment of status.
Gotcha.
So if you do that, then you don't have to do do it where you have to leave and file the provisional waiver.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There you have it. To all the DACA recipients, talk to an attorney. That way you can know what your options are. And another one is, a question is, what is TPS, and not so much what, maybe I know the list is always changing, but what is TPS? Let's just start with that, because I know there's only certain countries, right, that qualify for that.
Yeah, TPS is temporary protected status. And I can't remember what president started it, but it was started to provide relief to countries that suffered some type of tragic, I don't know, like a hurricane or a tornado or some type of it was meant to help countries that were in need.
Yeah.
And so they didn't want to send people back to countries that were, that were damaged by storm or something, or just they didn't want to send people back to countries that really wouldn't give them somewhere to stay, somewhere safe to be.
Yeah.
And so they allowed people, if you lived in the United States during some period of time, they gave them temporary status. And so it's like getting DACA, basically.
Okay.
They had temporary status and they could get a work permit.
Okay.
And they also were granted permission to travel.
Okay. Gotcha.
But President Trump is trying to end all TPS.
Okay.
So there's countries that had TPS that don't have it anymore, and countries that they're ending really, really soon. So, go talk to an attorney.
Yeah. Go talk to an attorney, so that way you can see if your country, because again, I know we're talking and referring a lot to Mexico, but there are immigrants from everywhere, right? There's immigrants from everywhere, different countries. So, you never know. This could be something that, because they, like you mentioned, they could be here in the United States, right? And their country, if it qualifies for TPS, that could be an option for them. But they got to talk to an attorney.
Yeah, you need to talk to an attorney. I mean, I don't charge a consultation fee.
There you go.
But only if, and unless it goes over 15 minutes. And the only reason why I do that is because, I don't want people just coming in for free legal advice.
Right.
I want them to, I don't want people that, are just looking for free stuff.
Right. Yeah. Like they want to come, get all the information and then go do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. All right. And then the other one is, what are U visas and who qualifies for them?
U visas are visas for the victims of crimes.
Okay.
Okay. And there's only certain crimes that qualify. So, and it's usually anything domestic violence related or some serious, any crimes that involve either the actual or the threat of serious bodily injury.
Okay. So, for example, so that in situations like that, like let's say, somebody here was a victim. They're here in the country illegally. They become a victim of one of these crimes. That could possibly qualify them for that.
Yes. And it would take me forever to list all of the crimes.
Yeah.
You need to talk to an attorney.
Talk to an attorney. Yeah.
And just see whether or not your crime would qualify.
Yeah. And do they have to bring their police reports with them, or is that something that you can help them with?
The thing is that the only person that can get the police report is the victim.
Gotcha.
Even I can't get it. Even if I'm the victim's attorney, I can't get it. The victim is the only one that can get the police report.
Okay.
And the police report is the only way that anyone will be able to tell you whether or not you qualify for the U visa.
Yeah. And is there like a statute of limitation of when that crime was committed towards that person?
No, there is no statute of limitations. It's just that the police department or the law enforcement agency that has the report has to certify to immigration that you're the victim of a qualifying crime and that you were helpful in the prosecution of the offender of that crime.
Gotcha.
So if the case is really, really old, you might not be able to find, or the police department or the law enforcement agency might not be able to issue that certification.
Yeah.
Also, in some cases where, if it's domestic violence, and you see this a lot in domestic violence, if you're the victim of domestic violence and you tell the officer that you don't want to press charges, that might disqualify you from getting the U visa.
Yeah. Even if the state still pursued prosecution.
Even if they still pursued prosecution.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a chance that because you were not cooperative in prosecuting that offender, they might deny the U visa.
Gotcha. There you have it. There you have it. If you have ever been a victim of a crime or anything like that, best thing to do, if you're in doubt or don't know, just go visit an attorney and go get some legal advice. Have them look into your case. And again, like you said, the only one that is able to actually pull that report would be you if you were the victim of that crime, right?
Yes.
All right. So the other one here is, what is a VAWA, VAWA, and how do people apply?
VAWA is the Violence Against Women's Act.
Okay.
And VAWA allows you to get a visa and apply for your green card if you're the victim of domestic violence.
Okay.
So if you are the spouse or the parent of a citizen, a U.S. citizen that's 21 years of age or older, then you might be able to qualify under VAWA.
Okay. And it's the same thing, right? Case by case.
Yeah, but I mean, to get VAWA, you have to prove that you suffered physical or psychological injury or trauma by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse, parent, or child.
Gotcha.
And you have to have proof. So the The tricky thing about VAWA is the proof, because, while you might be able to claim that you suffered psychological trauma from a U.S. citizen, it's the tough part about those cases is the proof. Now, the way that you can do that is if you sought, counseling or something during that time period. It's just you can't do it after the fact.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to be good enough proof.
Yeah.
You have to have gone to see someone and sought treatment while it was happening.
Yeah.
And then that's good proof.
That's good proof. Gotcha. Okay. All right. And then another one, another visa here is, what is a K-1 visa, and what are the process for those?
The K-1 visa is a fiance visa, where if you're the fiance or you're married to a citizen, then you can apply for a visa to enter the United States. It's for people that are outside of the United States that wants to come to the United States as soon as possible.
Okay.
That's why they started the program, because they wanted to give, relief to the spouses or the fiancés of U.S. citizens, the ability to come to the United States on a quicker route than just by doing it the other way, which takes about anywhere between 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
The only problem is that now it's actually the same, or could possibly even take longer than if you do it the other way.
Yeah.
Plus, the K-1 visa is actually double the cost, double the work. Because you have to get the visa, then you have to get married, and then apply for your green card, rather than just straight applying for your green card.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is like, the process is like, hey, you know what? We're in the process of getting married. I want her to just come to the United States and marry her here. That would be the K-1 process. But the other process, they could be legally married. She can be in her country, or he can be in his country, and then they can request a green card that way.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, and like I said, it's definitely not faster. It's the same amount of time as if you got married and then applied for her as your wife or husband.
Yeah.
Then trying to apply for the fiance visa. Yeah. The only times that would actually make sense are people that live far away, because then the fiance or the spouse doesn't have to travel back to that country for her to get her visa.
Yeah.
So you save on the travel money and time that it would take to travel back to, the faraway place. Whereas, if you're nearby, because most of my clients are from Mexico or South America.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a whole lot easier to get married wherever they're at, and then to file for them as a spouse than to do it as a K-1 visa.
Gotcha. Yeah, I learned a little bit about that through the 90 Day Fiance. That show. Where like it would they would have like a few people on those episodes where they were like, a year, 2 years into the seasons, and they were still waiting for their K-1 visa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and but regarding all these types of visas, these are some things that you do offer in your law office.
Yes, I do. Mainly immigration.
Okay.
All aspects of immigration.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Okay. Good. All right. And then we talked a lot about this, like the fears, right, of getting pulled over by ICE, what to do when if anyone is ever detained. Here's something that just to kind of maybe take the fear away from people, but is it true that there's ICE agents waiting outside courts for people? you're in the courtroom, maybe, I don't know how many days a week, but you're probably there more than anyone else.
For the most part, I've never seen anybody get arrested at a courthouse because they're already in the system. So there's really no need
Yeah.
for someone for ICE to visit a courthouse.
Yeah.
Because they're already in the process of deportation.
Yeah.
The only possible way or the reason that I would think someone would get arrested in the courthouse is if they have some serious criminal record.
Yeah.
Or they committed a crime recently. Or if they have a deportation before.
Gotcha.
Because once you're deported, say for example, you tried to come in at the border and you got deported. Once you're deported, you don't have any right to see a judge anymore.
Because you're already deported.
Yeah, you're already deported. So immigration, ICE, whatever department it is, ICE or the Border Patrol, they have the right to arrest you and just deport you back to your country.
And so that's what kind of technically means, like, to be in ICE's radar, right? Like when you have that deportation.
When you have a criminal record or you've been deported before.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way things are right now, I really don't know what it is to be on their radar.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be that was the only reason.
Right.
And even then, even in that case, there wasn't a chance that you were going to get picked up.
Yeah.
But it's been ramped up, intensified by 1,000-fold right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any recent clients from like those situations where it's been ramped up?
No. There's only been a few times where I had clients that were taken into custody, but that was at immigration, and that was only because they had been already ordered deported.
Gotcha. Okay. So there you have it, guys. So yeah, because that's been something that's been going around the community a lot, like where it's almost like putting fear in people not show up to court. Because why don't you talk about that though? What's the risk of not showing up to court?
Well, if you don't show up to court, then the judge can order you deported in your absence. And then you have a deportation. And that's one thing you don't really want. You don't want to have a record of any deportations.
Yeah. Because
it shuts doors that could possibly be open to you.
Yeah. So there you have it. You think you're taking a risk because you're allowing fear to, cripple you for whatever reason, right? Or you're listening to, false news or whatever it is that you're listening to. That's why it's better to consult with an attorney, get all of the information that you need. And if you do have these courts, just show up, because the risk is probably even greater, having now you're tagged with a deportation. And now even if they try to show back up to court, right, they already have that deportation on them also.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. So, moving on to some other questions right here. On this one, why? You talked a lot about this, but I really want you to zone in on this and really share from your experience. And I know you've been sharing a lot from your experience, but why is it better to hire an immigration attorney instead of trying to rely on a notary or a paralegal?
Well, one is that, the attorneys know more. They know the law.
Yeah.
And immigration is all about law. The other thing is you really want to hire someone because, it's just hard to do something that you've never done before.
Right.
Even if you have instructions, sometimes you don't understand the instructions.
Right.
And sometimes when you don't understand the instructions and you make an error, that error could cost you whether or not you qualify, whether or not you can even get your green card.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to make an error. And like we were talking about before, it's really hard to walk an error back that you get. That if you say something, the wrong thing you say you say something wrong to an immigration official, then it's on record that you already admit something that you may or may not have done.
Yeah.
But you already admitted it. And so the next person that you try and convince that you really didn't do it is going to say, but you said it once already.
Yeah. Why'd you say it? Yeah.
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 So it's like, especially in immigration, you want to do it right the first time. And if you do it wrong, at best, you're going to be wasting your money because you're going to have to refile everything. And so everything that you paid to do it the first time is lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The worst, and at the worst scenario is that you do the wrong thing and now you can't even apply.
Yeah.
Or the worst thing is you end up in deportation. Because before, while President Obama was president and while Biden was president, if you did something wrong and your application was denied, it just stayed denied. And they didn't do anything after that. Now under Trump before, and now under Trump the second term, if you apply for something and it's denied, you automatically get sent to deportation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I have, on one hand, President Trump is really good for immigration attorneys because it means a whole lot more work.
Yeah.
But I don't really see it that way. I really don't want that kind of work.
Right.
Because, people that are here that been here for a long time now are at risk of deportation just because of an error made by the person that tried to help them before.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a ton of those cases right now.
Man.
And it's like, I asked these people, I said, didn't your attorney tell you that you're not supposed to say that? Or didn't your attorney prepare you for the interview?
Yeah.
And they said no. And then it's like, because of that simple mistake, now you're going to have to pay me and you're at risk of deportation.
Yeah.
It's a sad story for me.
Yeah. No, it really is. It really is. Even in the community, when you hear things like that, or it's like, but another question is, and I know maybe there is no right or wrong, or, it's going to be hard to maybe generalize this, but what's the average time frame for a case once it's started? I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence of that. Like, what's the average time frame that you're seeing?
Well, it just depends on the case.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a case where you're married to a citizen and you qualify for adjustment of status, that case typically takes 6 months to a year.
Okay.
For a case where you're married to a citizen and you're going to have to go back to Juarez for your visa appointment, and you have to file the provisional waiver. That case takes about 4 years. So there's a wide range of processing times.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that shouldn't discourage them though, because again, like you said, it's a case by case.
Yes, like I said, you should talk to an attorney so you know what you're in for, what you're looking at. It's and like I said, my consultations are free, so it's just your time, and it's worth it for you to know.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and then also, this is something that people want to know too: is does your office offer, or do you help people go from permanent residency to full citizenship? Is that something you guys offer also?
Yeah, but for the most part, most people do citizenship by themselves.
Okay.
As an attorney, I have to advise everyone that they should have an attorney.
Yeah.
Only because if I tell them that they don't need an attorney and it ends up that they do need an attorney, they might be able to sue me. So just to cover me, I have to tell everyone that they should have an attorney.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you everything that I do for you, you probably can do yourself. And
But it doesn't mean we should.
yeah, it doesn't mean you should. But
Yeah.
in certain situations, you could if you wanted to.
Right.
But I mean, come in for a consultation and I'll be straight with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I know for example, my mom would have benefited from having an attorney. When she went from trying to get her from permanent residence, to citizenship, because the first time that I'm putting, it's okay. My mom, I've always put my mom on blast, but she had a situation where she didn't know what was on her record. She didn't know, and so she had to run in with the law when she was like 18 years old. She had forgotten all about it. She didn't know about it, and so when she went to the interview, they're like, "Well, have you ever been arrested?" No. And then it came up. It came up that no, yeah, and I think that because nobody actually really sat down with her to say, hey, like, it doesn't matter like how minor it is or how petty it was. Did you have any arrests? Because you want to make sure, because they didn't disqualify her from her citizenship because she was arrested. They disqualified her because she didn't state it.
Yeah, it's just that the immigration officers, they're just regular people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times, with few exceptions, they're just trying to do their job.
Yeah.
You got to know who your audience is, and people that work for the government, it's the most stable job, and it has great benefits. And so once you have a government job, a lot of people just fall back into it, and they love that job because it's stable. They know they have work.
Mm-hmm.
They have great benefits.
Yeah.
And everybody that works for immigration, they're just doing something to make sure that they don't lose that job.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to make sure that you don't lose your job, and somebody comes in and the first question they ask and the answer is a lie, you're already on your toes.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to be prepared for any interview, for any interaction with immigration.
Yeah.
You want to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I know my mom could have benefited from that. Thank God now she's a citizen, but yeah, it took her, I don't know. I think there was like she got like some sort of punishment, like where she couldn't reapply for a certain amount of time, and she had to go back, and this whole drama of she had to go and uncover that record, get it sealed and all that. So it was a whole thing, but yeah, I think little things like that sometimes that we don't think about, but it's like, yeah, what, like you said, it's not just because you have to say it, right? But I really think like, yeah, if in any situation, go consult with an attorney.
Yeah, I mean, in situations where you're applying for citizenship, the only times that you really, really should have an attorney, like I said, usually, I mean, for the most part, I have to say that you should have an attorney all the time. But the times that you really, really need an attorney is if you have a criminal record.
Yeah.
Because you're already nervous enough when you're going in there.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, there's some people that just don't get nervous at all, but for the most part, most people are nervous when they get in there.
Yeah.
And just having someone there, might put you at ease, and that might make a ton of difference in your interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have a criminal record, at least you'll have someone there that can, deflect whatever, or be there to say, hey, you can't ask that or whatnot, or explain. For the most part, when I accompany someone to an interview for citizenship, I don't say anything. I can't say anything. The officer gets mad if I say anything.
Yeah.
But in situations where you're talking about your criminal record, then that's when I can actually say something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's good to know. And then another question that people might have is, Something that maybe sometimes discourages, right? People.
Daddy, do we have practice today?
We'll cut that. So another question that people have right now, right, is um, uh, a lot of times, right, what discourages people from signing up or going with an attorney is maybe they feel like that payment is required, full payment is required up front. Do you offer payment plans for people, for families?
Yeah, for most part, I offer payment plans, reasonable payment plans.
Okay. Okay. There you go. So they can come to you, and if you set out your fees, and if you guys can work something out, you'll work with them.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Good. Good to know. And then last question here, more like what encouragement would you give to families who feel hopeless about their immigration status?
They need to talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, not knowing is like the worst feeling,
Yeah.
because then everything, the worst case scenario comes into your mind.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing that you can do, is think worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Because, while maybe when I was a lot younger, I didn't believe it, but positive thinking is a very, very powerful thing. People that are optimistic, that have positive thoughts all the time, those are the ones that are successful. People that live in fear or are pessimistic or are always down on themselves or always think worst case scenario, those are the people that stay in that. And they'll answer the questions wrong.
Yeah.
They won't do anything when they can do something. They'll miss their chance to do something when they can.
Yeah.
They'll miss opportunities that are available. So, if you take away anything from my visit here, what you need to do is always think positive.
Yeah.
Always hope for the best,
Yeah. Yeah.
not the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to this and for coming on here. I mean, you answered so much. You've given a lot of information, straightforward information, and I know you've answered a lot of questions. And so, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And all of my employees that work for me speak Spanish. So if you only speak Spanish, I can accommodate you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was in his office recently, and yeah, all his staff, Spanish speaking. So if you have any questions, they're just a phone call away. If you're here in San Bernardino or in the surrounding cities, all the Inland Empire, even if you're, in anywhere in Southern California, if you want to come on down, have a consultation, if him answering a lot of these questions have put you at ease, you still have curiosity about your immigration status, come on down. I'm going to be putting all his information, all the different clips that we're going to be putting up right there are going to be having the information to the law firm there. But give them a call. Give them a call. Like he said, I love what he said, to think positive, because we are being taught right now to be so pessimistic. We are being taught right now to be in fear, to watch things that are going to put more fear into us. And the only way that is going to be put at ease is if we get the knowledge and the understanding of where we're at. Stop comparing your situation to other people's situation and really start zoning in on what it is that you have to do, what your family has to do, and take that first step. Like he said, his consultations are free. So why not take that step? Go to his office, get that consultation, and because you never know, your entire life, your family's life can be changed by just you simply making a decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to fear, I'm not going to think pessimist, I'm not going to be a pessimist, I'm not going to think negative, I'm just going to take that leap of faith, and I'm going to move forward with this. So all his information is going to be on there. Again, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. My email is always right there on my podcast channel. And but thank you guys for watching this.